Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Welcome back to Chatgpt's Controlled Universe Mode. Now, I want to thank you all again for joining me. I know it has been a while since the last episode. At this time, I was a little bit busy, and as I mentioned before, getting these and recording all the footage and putting it together post-editing, it takes a little bit of time. So, thank you for sticking with me. And before this episode kicks off, moving forward in this series, I know I focus heavily on Raws, ECW, SmackDowns, and then the pay-per-view to conclude every episode. We're going to be kind of going through Raws, SmackDowns, ECWs. We're going to be going through all of those shows more quicker than normal. It's going to be a quick recap of what happened, whatever rivalry started, whatever happened in that rivalry, whoever won a match, just quick in and out of each episode, and then we will be more heavily focused on the actual pay-per-views themselves and the championship matches and so on and so forth. So pretty much just a lot of the pivotal points and the most important stuff will be focused on, and then once we hit the pay-per-view, that is full match edits, all the big moves, all the big moments. So we're going to be doing that moving forward. But I'm going to stop yapping and we're going to get back into the action. As we begin the month, the Intercontinental Championship picture, Ilya Dragunov, his next challenger will be Shinsuke Nakamura, and Ilya Dragunov scheduled for a one-on-one match, but as he's making his entrance out to the ring, Shinsuke wants to come in and set the tone early. He attacks him in the entrance, but it would not do enough. Ilya makes a statement and picks up a win over Shinsuke to start off this brand new rivalry. Going into the Women's Championship here, Charlotte Flair would be presented with a brand new challenger to the series in Roxanne Perez. Now, this rivalry starts off in a bit of a strange way as the two were tasked in a tag team match together, but Roxanne's confidence gets the best of her as she starts the match off by forcing Charlotte to get into the corner. Jumps out to an attack, but once Raquel came in, she was forced to make a desperate tag to get Charlotte to do some of the heavy lifting. Enters again and gets dominated by Raquel. Once again, Charlotte enters, does more heavy lifting until ultimately Roxanne picks up the win for their team. And then post-match, the two celebrate in victory, but Roxanne's got a bit of tricks left up her sleeve, it may seem. As we go into the tag title division, the Dudley Boys are the next up in line to try and take down the Steiner brothers. Now, to kick off this rivalry, it was a one-on-one match between Rick and Bubba sets the tone for the start of this new rivalry with a surefire victory. Main event, Jey Uso can be ignored no longer. Yeet, he exclaims as he wants his shot at the World Championship. Now, in their first encounter, both men showing respect to one another, shaking hands in their first initial matchup. Hey man, they are good friends after all, showing respect to one another as they both know this competition and rivalry is going to be hell, because they're both going to try to get what they want, which is that world title. But Yeet would show no luck in his first affair, losing to Cody Rhodes, but this is not the end. As we begin ECW's journey here, JD McDonough will be the next man up to the plate to take down, or try to take down, Dijak for the ECW Championship. And although in their first encounter he would try his best, Dijak's power and size would be too much for him to handle. So JD's going to have to go back into his bag of tricks to see what he can do to get the title in his hands. After the match was over, JD tried to show a sign of respect, but Dijak was having absolutely none of it, telling him, "Get the hell out of here, this is my show, you ain't seen nothing yet." So JD, you gotta come with more than that, buddy. As we start up SmackDown here, the United States Championship. Sheamus has been a pretty dominant champion to this point, defeating everyone in his path, but next in line is Carmelo Hayes, and Melo don't miss. He started this rivalry by probably talking crap on Twitter, as he always does, and attacking Sheamus as soon as he got into the ring for their first encounter, even managing to pull off some big moves here. But Sheamus would have to teach him a lesson, saying, "Melo, you missed this time. Sheamus would pick up a dominant victory in their first match here on SmackDown. So Melo's going to have to go into that bag of tricks once again and try to see what he can come up with next time. SmackDown's WWE Women's Championship. Io Sky set for one-on-one action here, but Chatgpt said your next opponent in a different sort of arrangement will be Zoe Stark. But in her first encounter here, she has to take on Thea Hill. And while Thea tried her best, Io made pretty quick work of her, as she is still the ever so dominant women's champion. After the match though, Zoe comes out and stares down with Io, saying, "Hello, I'm the first challenger that you have not seen yet in a very long list of a women's division." WWE Championship. Solo Sikoa wants the head of the table, the Ulafala, and the title. In an impressive showing in their first encounter, Solo almost dominated. Roman would pick up the victory by the skin of his teeth, but Solo almost had his number. Could this be a sign of things to come in the coming month? As we resume Monday Night Raw, Shinsuke looks to exact his revenge over Ilya once again, but as luck would have it, it would not be in the books. Shinsuke would pick up yet another loss, looking to try to gain an advantage over his upcoming Intercontinental Championship match at Hell in a Cell. Tag team action as the Steiners and the Dudleys go head to head, and after Bubba picked up a win last week over Rick, he enlists in the aid of his brother Devon this time around, looking to pick up yet another victory in their quest for the tag team titles. And in this match, it would have it that they would look pretty damn good throughout the whole thing, even hitting their signature moves here. But after a quick assist from Scott to take out Devon from the equation, the Steiners picked up a victory and evening out the momentum loss from last week. Charlotte Flair set for one-on-one action against Alexa Bliss, and before the match takes place, Charlotte makes her way down to the ring, a little bit hesitant, and as we mentioned before, Roxanne would have to dig into her bag of tricks in order to get an advantage over Charlotte, and she does just that. After teaming up with her last week, she throws Charlotte into the ring saying, "You're not escaping this time, I need you worn down," but it did not work in her favor. Charlotte would still walk away with a victory and all the momentum in her back pocket. After losing in his Quest last week main event, Jey Uso wants another shot at Cody Rhodes. As he stated once before, he will stop at nothing to get that World Heavyweight Championship. After shaking hands and showing each other respect last week, Jey says no more of that, it is full toe-to-toe combat. And unfortunately for him, the respect would come back to bite him in the ass, losing once again to Cody and sulking in the middle of the ring after it was over. Cody saying, "Listen, we're friends, we're good together, let's shake on it, show respect." Jey wants none of it. Still gonna stop at nothing for that world title. Heading over to ECW's second week, JD McDonough's quest for the ECW Championship would be no easier. Taking on Noam Dar in one-on-one action and getting absolutely run right over. You gotta think, if you're Dijak in the back, you got your feet kicked up and you're not worried about a damn thing. JD's really gotta figure something out if he wants that championship. As we gear up for SmackDown, Sheamus and Santos Escobar are set for one-on-one action, and Santos had a really good showing against Sheamus, but unfortunately the Celtic Warrior, the United States Champion, would pick up the win and secure even more momentum heading into his rivalry with Carmelo Hayes, which will conclude with a championship match at Hell in a Cell. Zoe Stark looking to pick up a big victory in one-on-one action here against Io Sky, but Io had a trick up her sleeve, bringing out former rival but turned friend Asuka in her place in this one-on-one match. Io thinking she can pull a quick one out from under Zoe in terms of getting a little bit of rest and letting Asuka do the dirty work and taking out Zoe for her. and unfortunately it would work just like that. Zoe would have no answer, Asuka would pick up a surefire victory, and everything is in Io Sky's favor, as usual. Oh yeah, man! We're whooping that Trick in one-on-one action against the Tribal Chief Roman Reigns. But before the match could even get started, Solo Sikoa exacting revenge, attacking Roman as he's making his way down to the ring during his entrance for his one-on-one action against Trick Williams. Security and the ref finally get them torn apart from each other, and as Trick does show some high promise here in what would have been a massive victory for his career, Roman does ultimately come up big and pick up the win over Trick. After the match was over, Solo still at the top of the stage ramp, taunting Roman saying, nah, I'm tired of hearing you speak, and they go at it once again, making for tribal combat imminent at Hell in a Cell. We are now in the go-home week prior to the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, and once again we start off with Shinsuke and Ilya. But before they could even get in the ring, Ilya taking some big-time strides here, attacking Shinsuke as he makes his way down to the ring. Shinsuke, however, would not take that lying down, managing to pick up a victory, but the damage would show. Shinsuke feels it post-match. Even in celebration, he can barely lift his arm up. So how will this affect him at Hell in a Cell? With Rick Steiner and Bubba Ray Dudley scheduled for one-on-one action, it would never even be able to start, as Rick would look to extract the left leg of Bubba Ray Dudley, trying to eliminate him from the equation completely, until Bubba pulled out this. Charlotte and Roxanne scheduled for a one-on-one match. As Roxanne waits patiently for Charlotte to make her entrance, Charlotte comes in from behind the crowd and attacks Roxanne, taking a massive advantage, and this would spill into the entire match. Charlotte just with full rage and anger doing everything to dismantle Roxanne, even taking out her ability to walk. Main event time with Cody Rhodes and Sami Zayn going one-on-one, but before the match could get started, main event Jey Uso wants to come in and sit ringside. Even after the little skirmish with Cody last week, he doesn't seem too pleased about it, not being true to trust over here. Cody doesn't have any good intentions here, and I don't think Jey does either. But Cody picks up the win. Jey stays true to his word not to interfere, just to get a closer look, possibly even scouting his upcoming match for Hell in a Cell, but Cody walks away with a victory. The go-home show for ECW before Hell in a Cell sees JD McDonough try to recapture a victory after having zero luck in the last couple of weeks. He's set to go one-on-one with Ridge Holland, but look who comes down to ringside. It's none other than Dijak himself. And as the match was progressing here, JD looked to be in a good spot, carrying some good momentum. The match looked to be in his favor for the taking. But of course, Dijak had no good intentions in mind once he came out to ringside in the beginning. And of course, as the match was midway through, he comes in to attack JD for a disqualification, asserting his dominance. And now it is the go-home week of Friday Night SmackDown, as Zoe Stark is geared up for one-on-one action here against Indy Hartwell. Looky who we have here. Io Sky comes down, destroying her only competition for Zoe Stark, and then taking matters into her own hands. As the referee tries to split up the action here, he is not lucky in any way, shape, or form, but Zoe Stark will not be screwed around any longer, taking all the matters into her own hands and taking out Io before their match at Hell in a Cell. Dirty Dom and Mello don't miss, going one-on-one, and this was a match for the high flyers if I've ever seen it. Take flight. This whole match was an exhibition in the air. But Dirty Dom and Carmelo would put on pretty well a classic, but Mello indeed did not miss, and he was money, picking up a victory and securing big-time momentum going into this Sunday's Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. But after the fact, Sheamus did not take lightly to that victory and bonking him over the head with that US title. Solo Sikoa versus A-Town Down Austin Theory. And unfortunately for Mr. A-Town Down, Solo was all business, taking care of Theory in a pretty big matter. After the match, Solo celebrating his victory there after being a little bit busted open, as you could see. But this man, the tribal chief, would not make it any easier, smashing him with a kendo stick and making a statement.
WWE, Hell in a Cell.
And we kick off Hell in a Cell with the Intercontinental Championship on the line. Shinsuke challenging Ilya Dragunov. Let's get into it. Shinsuke with a dragging armbar, Ilya with a big power bomb. As they move to the outside, Ilya with a big time suplex to Shinsuke. Shinsuke follows up with his own suplex as well. Ilya with a big flying elbow would not be enough, but with a nice combo of strikes there, and then another flying elbow will seal the deal. Ilya retains his Intercontinental Championship. Next up, we have the ECW Championship on the line. Dijak is being challenged by J.D. McDonough, who has been resilient week in, week out, even showing a lot of resiliency in this match, doing everything he can to try to take out Dijak, especially with some impressive moves, but unfortunately it would not be enough as Dijak quickly disposes of him once he regains his momentum, retaining the ECW title. While this may be called Hell in a Cell, we're not opposed to using other forms of steel in this pay-per-view. Steel cage match for the United States Championship. Carmelo Hayes quickly taking down Sheamus from the top of the cage as he tries to escape early, using a bunch of big flying aerobatic moves, but Sheamus would return to his own even after Carmelo shows so much resiliency throughout the entire match, hitting this massive move off the second rope and then the Celtic Cross to end things once and for all, retaining his United States Championship. Another Hell in a Cell match, but this is for the tag team titles. Putting 4 men inside one cell can only get destructive. Scott Steiner and Bubba Ray Dudley banging each other's heads off the cell, slowly working their way to the top and destroying each other's skull onto the steel on the top of this cage. But this would be the turning point, as Scott would throw Bubba through the top and Rick would do his part with Devon in the middle of the ring. How Bubba is even still managing to stand is beyond me, but that right there would be the nail in the coffin for the Dudleys as the Steiners retain their tag team titles. And now back into the regular match. WWE Women's Championship on the line. Will Zoe Stark finally be the first person to dethrone Io Sky as we get into it here? Io shows full dominance in the start of this, but Zoe would not go out quietly, displaying some acrobatic moves of her own. That is until Io laid into another submission and a good gut check, putting away Zoe for good. Another squash for Io, no rush off her shoulders. This was nothing. Io still is dominant and retains her title. Roxanne Perez challenging Charlotte Flair for the Women's World title inside Hell in a Cell. As we get into the action here, Charlotte with some hard chops in the corner to start things off, and then a big cartwheel clothesline here. But Roxanne would start coming through with some big time offense of her own until Charlotte puts an end to it, but Roxanne would not say die, and she would come back here with a nice big clothesline. Charlotte, though, however, would end the match with a big time backflip, somersault, whatever you want to call it right there, retaining her Women's World title, which seems to be the theme of this pay-per-view, is retaining. The Yeet Man takes on Cody Rhodes for the World Heavyweight Championship. Can he finally indeed become the main event Jey Uso he so claims to be? As we get into the action here, Cody Rhodes displaying some crazy offensive maneuvers here, and Jay would ultimately turn it around on the pedigree, looking for that huge momentum switch, which he would have for a little bit of time. Here, using the hip thrust, the super kick, and a spear until they spill back to the outside, which Cody regains his own momentum and picks up the win. Yet again, we have another retain here. Tribal Chief Warfare, Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa going one-on-one inside the big Hell in a Cell. And this would immediately spill to the outside to start things off. And Roman would not let anything go, neither would Solo, until he hits the Superman punch and then a spear to put Solo away really quickly. Yeah, Solo's not getting that oola-fa fa lufa fa ba fa fa la fa fa anytime soon. Roman is still the head of the table. And yet again, another retain on this insane Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. Thanks for watching.